MCP, aka Model Context Protocol, has become news in the AI space. I mean, unless you're living under a rock, then you probably have noticed the surge in hype over the term MCP. I mean, everyone is talking about it. So today I'll take you through understanding MCPs, what are they, how do they work, and how does this completely transform the game for AI agents. And let me make it clear, you don't need to be technical or know how to code. I'll ensure even a 5-year-old child can explain this thing, MCP. Let's jump into it. So I have a mirror board presentation prepared for you guys. So the entirety of this mirror board that you're seeing here will be provided link in the description. So go ahead and access it so that you can be able to learn along. So to understand what MCP is, you need to understand how AI agents work. So how an AI agent works is it's able to interact with the user to provide relevant responses to whatever the user asks, as well as performing certain functions while interacting with the user. So I repeat, the AI agent works to provide responses to user questions or user queries, but it's also able to perform certain functions while interacting with the user. So for you to be able to do those things, it needs access to 3 things. So the AI agent needs a system prompt. This is the English instructions that guide the AI on how to provide responses and the kind of functions to do while interacting with the user. So that is a system prompt. For it to be able to provide responses to any customer query or user query, it needs access to data or information. And that's where the knowledge base comes in play. You will provide, let's say, a PDF document containing your business's FAQs and respective answers. So therefore, the AI agent will use this PDF document to provide relevant responses to any user question or user inquiry. But as we mentioned, the AI agent not only provides responses, but also is able to perform functions while interacting with the user. So whether it's booking the user into an appointment, or sending an email on behalf of the user, or maybe it could be saving the customer's details to your CRM. All these are functions that can be done when the AI agent is interacting with the user. For it to be able to do this, it's doing these functions on apps that are available online. Whether that app is Facebook, whether it's Salesforce CRM, whether it's the Gmail app or Google Calendar, this simply means as long as the function is being done on an app that is available online, then the AI agent is able to automate doing that task on that specific app. And that's where tools come into play. Tools come to be able to connect your AI agent to specific functions on the app that you want to work with. And notice I've said specific functions. We're not giving the AI agent access to the entire Gmail app. So right now, let's take an example of the Gmail app. The AI agent is interacting with the user to be able to perform certain tasks on the Gmail app. So tools will come in play to be able to connect the AI agent with specific functions on the Gmail app. And notice I've said specific functions. We're not giving it access to the entire Gmail app. We're giving it access to specific functions on the Gmail app. So as you can see here, when you focus on the tools, the AI agent can do functions on the Gmail app. One of it being checking the inbox to see emails that have come in. Another one could be sending an email to another recipient. Another function could be deleting an email, etc. But now here's where the limitation comes in play. So notice when I was telling you in regard to how the AI agent is connected to specific functions on the Gmail app through tools, this is a limitation because what if the user wants to perform another function that we haven't provided the AI agent access to? Then it means the AI agent's capabilities are limited. So for example, if the user wants to mark an email as read, the AI agent won't be able to do that. If the user wants to, let's say, mark an email as unread, or check email attachments, or move an email to a certain folder, or etc, you get the point. The AI agent's capabilities come to be limited, and therefore that's where an MCP comes into play. The MCP acts as a middleman between the AI agent and the app we want to work with. So in this case, we would have, let's say, a Gmail MCP that acts as a middleman between the AI agent and the entire Gmail app. Therefore, giving the AI agent all the capabilities, all the functions that can be done on the Gmail app. This therefore means all the functionalities that can be done on the Gmail app, even those that I haven't listed down here, are given as capabilities the AI agent can execute on. And that's the power of MCPs. We don't want to give the AI agent access to specific functions on the Gmail app. We want to give it access to the entire Gmail app. Then the AI agent uses its brain to determine what functions to be able to do in order to achieve the user's goal. So I'll scroll down here, you can see. So having an MCP as a middleman, we're able to see it visually. So the AI agent will be able to have access to various MCPs for the various apps you want it to do tasks on. So whether it's your Gmail app, whether it's your Slack, whether it's Google Calendar. So think through, when this AI agent you're building is interacting with the user, are there certain functions it needs to be able to do? What apps are those functions being done on? Then you list all those apps there. Then for each of those apps, you will have an MCP to act as a middleman between the AI agent and that app. So for example, a Google Calendar MCP to connect our AI agent to all the functions that can be done on the Google Calendar app. We could have a Gmail MCP to connect our AI agent to all the functions that can be done on the Gmail app. We have a Slack MCP to connect our AI agent to all the functions that can be done on the Slack MCP, and thus giving our AI agent limitless capabilities. So as you can see here, our Gmail MCP enables our AI agent to check inbox, to check and send emails, to be able to delete an email address, mark an email as read, etc. So you can see I've listed them here. Of course, I haven't exhausted all of them, but you're able to get the point. And why this is very powerful is we don't have to manually configure the tools to perform the various functions when the AI agent is interacting with the user. Because currently how it works is, within the system prompt, I'll tell the AI something like, when the user expresses interest in booking an appointment, call the book appointment function to book that appointment. So you can be able to see I'm manually telling the AI when to execute a certain function. We're not giving it the freedom to determine when to execute the function. And to be able to manually connect the AI agent with the Google Calendar functionality of booking the appointment, I also need to tell the AI the kind of information it needs to bring in order to book that appointment on my Google Calendar. So that could be the time slot to book the appointment. This could be the name of the customer that we are booking the appointment for. This could also be the email address of the customer, etc. You can see all these pieces of information need to be taken in order to book the appointment on Google Calendar. And for this, we have to explicitly tell the AI these are the pieces of information we need in order to book the appointment. And these pieces of information need to be in this specific format, whether that email address needs to be in text, whether that piece of information needs to be a number, you know all the data types, number, text, boolean, a JSON object, etc. We are manually telling the AI how to execute this function, which limits the AI's capability. But when we give the AI agent access to the Gmail MCP, then the Gmail MCP has all the details required to perform all the functions within the Gmail app. Therefore, I as a developer don't need to manually configure all the tools, all the functions that the AI can do. We just give the AI access to the MCP, and automatically it knows how to execute sending an email or how to delete an email and the information that needs to be taken in before deleting the email. It knows all these things. So to be able to see this practically, we need to know how an MCP actually looks. So think of it like this, like a database containing a bunch of URLs, and each URL, so this is how a URL looks like. Mentioned, I said that I'll explain this until a 5-year-old can understand. So this is how a URL looks like, from HTTPS till you're seeing this /send. That's a URL. And this URL enables our AI agent to perform a certain task. Because in order to perform a certain task, you need to make an API call to this specific URL in order to send the email. So the Gmail MCP has a huge list of all the functionalities that can be done on the Gmail app: sending an email, getting a message, listening messages, deleting a message, batch modifying messages, etc. All the functions that can be done on the Gmail app, and for each of those functions it has a URL in order to execute that function. Because the reality is, to perform the function, you make an API call to a certain endpoint URL. The endpoint URL is something of the sort, then you're able to execute that function. But it's not just enough to know the function and the URL required to perform that function. We need to know the kind of data that needs to be taken in, the kind of information that needs to be taken in order to perform that function. And that's where we have this. So you can see it has the function which is sending an email. It knows in order to execute that function, it needs this specific endpoint URL. Then it needs this specific 3 pieces of data. That is the recipient's email address, the subject of the email, and the body of the email. And it knows the recipient's email address is in text format. It knows the subject is also in text format, and also the email body is in text format. This is extremely critical, because once it knows all this, it therefore knows when interacting with the user has told me to send an email. But looking at the Gmail MCP, I can see to send an email, I need the recipient's email address. So the AI agent asks itself, has the user provided the recipient's email address? No. So let me ask the user, kindly, Mr. User, kindly provide the recipient's email address. The user provides that. Then the AI agent checks through the Gmail MCP. Is there another piece of data that is required to send the email? Or it says, I also need an email subject. So it asks the user, Mr. User, also kindly could you provide the subject of the email? Then it does obtaining all the pieces of information that are required in the necessary formats, whether it's a number, whether it's a JSON object, whether it's text. It brings this information in order to execute the functionality automatically. So you can see that was the first example for sending an email, but it also can retrieve some email messages. So it will call the get a message URL in order to execute that function. And for that, it knows maybe it needs specific pieces of information. Maybe that could be the message ID. Maybe that could be the date the message was sent. I don't know. You can be able to check Gmail's API documentation to see the kind of data that is required to perform the various functionalities in that. But here's the best part. You don't need to know that, because once you get access to the Gmail MCP, it will have access to all the functions that can be done in the Gmail app, as well as all the endpoint URLs to execute those functions, as well as for each of those functions, the kind of data or information that needs to be taken in to execute that function, and the format that that data needs to come in, whether it's text, whether it's a number, whether it's a boolean, etc. So you can notice I'm repeating myself because it's a simple concept, and once it's drilled into you, you're able to see the picture and you can't unsee it. So typically that's how it works. So the AI agent not only has access to one MCP, it has access to a plethora of MCPs based on the apps you want the AI agent to have access to. So if it's a Google Calendar that you want the AI agent to perform functions on, you'll give the AI agent access to the Google Calendar MCP. If you want it to do actions on the Slack app, you give the AI agent access to the Slack MCP, and for the rest of time, you know whatever functionality needs to be done on the Slack app, the AI agent is smart enough to execute those functions automatically, and you didn't have to go manually connecting each function to the AI agent, as is the case right now. So let's take an example. So let's say the AI agent is interacting with the user, and the user says something like, kindly Mr. AI, check through my inbox, give me back the most recent 5 emails and mark all of them as read. So the AI agent asks itself, so it has access to the Gmail MCP. The Gmail MCP asks itself, to be able to achieve this goal of marking the recent emails as read, what do I need to do? So it knows it needs to check the inbox. Okay, so it will call the check inbox function in order to bring back, let's say, the most recent 5 email addresses. So it gets back those emails. Then now it asks itself, in order to mark these emails as read, what does it need to do? It checks through all the functions that it has down here you can see it has access to all the functions and the necessary endpoint URLs to execute those functions. Then it checks, is there a function that is related to marking an email as read? Then it says, oh, there is one. Then it will check and get that specific function, get its URL, something of the sort. So maybe I could copy this URL over here, then let me convert it into a format that's a bit more suitable for marking an email as read. So let me take a text here. So instead of slash message, have you heard that? slash mess. English is actually hard. Anyways, slash, let's say mark email as read. So let's say this is how the actual URL is structured in order to mark an email as read. So it already has the 5 most recent emails. Therefore, now it will send an API call to this specific URL because it's seen in the MCP that out of all the functions we have, there's this function for marking an email as read. And for that function to be executed, the Gmail MCP has provided the following URL to execute that function. And now that it has the URL to execute the function, it still checks in the Gmail MCP and sees, oh, for this function to be executed, I need these following pieces of information. Let's say is the email IDs that need to be marked as read, and let's say the dates the email was sent. I don't know, you can check the documentation, but it knows these are the pieces of information that need to be taken in these following formats. Then it's able to make an API call to this specific URL in order to mark those emails as read, and thus achieving the user's goal of marking the most recent email addresses. Why am I saying email addresses? The most recent emails as read. So you can see that is a basic example. But the reality is, having the MCP in place means the AI agent can perform a very complex function that actually requires many functions to be executed in order to achieve that one function, or in order to achieve that one goal that the user is asking for. Because I don't know, it could be like for the user's goal to be achieved, maybe the user has asked for a very specific function to be done. The Gmail MCP knows it needs to maybe check the inbox, bring back a bunch of emails. Then after doing that, maybe it needs to check the email attachments, then download those email attachments. Then maybe it's also meant to send an email. All this in order to achieve the goal that the user has asked for. And that's the power of MCPs, is they give our AI agent access to a wide variety of functions that can be done on these online apps, and thus extending the capabilities of the AI agent, making it limitless. But here are 2 things that you need to take note of before starting using MCPs. So the MCP technology isn't there yet. So it's not 100% reliable compared to the current state where we manually give the AI agent access to specific functions. Because the reality is, yes, AI sometimes hallucinates, and sometimes it calling certain functions, it calls the wrong functions. It's a thing. If you've built AI systems, there are times you could tell the AI, kindly send an email, and in the tools you've provided, there's a tool for sending an email, but instead of the AI using the send an email tool, it ends up using the delete an email tool. Of course, that's an exaggeration, but just to give you an example that sometimes function calling isn't 100% reliable, and therefore it becomes even worse when we give the AI freedom to decide what tool to execute to achieve certain functions. So we are not yet there, but we are getting there. The next thing is the MCP technology shouldn't all be trusted, as they pose security risk if not built by the actual app company. The reality is right now, people are building various MCPs for the various apps that are online. So there's an MCP maybe for Gmail, there's an MCP for Google Calendar, there's an MCP for Slack. You can be able to go and check on Appify and you're able to see all these MCPs that are being created by individual developers. But here's the thing, that is very risky, because in order to build the MCP, the developer is actually writing pieces of code. They're writing their own codes. And for you to access that specific MCP, you have to work with their code. So if the developer inserts any malicious code within that code, then you get attacked. They can easily get access to your data, access to your laptop, to your device, etc. So it's a warning here. We'd rather wait for when these platforms, Google Calendar, builds their own internal MCP, giving it access to the entire world to access. For Slack to build their own Slack MCP, for Gmail to build their own Gmail MCP, for Salesforce to build their own Salesforce MCP, so that we know, of course, Salesforce won't insert malicious code into their own MCP in order to attack their own clients. It's not going to happen. But an individual out there with malicious intent can build a Salesforce MCP in order to access your own device. So you need to be very careful. We need to verify that we are accessing MCPs that have been built by the actual company, not some individual out there. And yeah, that's it from me. That's how MCPs work. I know there's been a lot of hype around MCPs, model context protocol, and I know it sounds a bit complex and stuff. What is protocol? What is context? What is model? etc. Point is, the MCP provides this AI model context on how to use these specific apps, context on how to perform functions on Gmail, context on how to perform functions on Salesforce, context on how to perform functions on Google Calendar, etc. And that's why it's called model context protocol. Anyways, if you want access to the Miro board, there'll be a link in the description, so go ahead and access that. If you got value from this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share to anyone who might get value from this. Anyways, that's it from me. Till next time, stay survey. Peace.